party, party, party all night long. Party, party, we like to party, 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 never go home. Party, party, we like to party, party, party all night long. Party, party, we like to party, 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 never go home.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to episode 46 of the Ball Talk Pod. Here to recap your Oklahoma City Thunder beating the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight to become the 2025 Western Conference champions. We're hanging another banner in the Paycom Center. There was never a doubt tonight. From the jump, this team dominated. Like that term gets thrown around often in the sports world. That is truly what happened on the floor at Paycom tonight. The Thunder win by 30, 124-94 to not only advance to the Western Conference Finals, but it set the record for most 30-point
to the finals.
Or to the finals. To the
Come
finals.
on, Ben. We're not. It's not last week.
I'm overwhelmed. Man. Oh my gosh. I mean, being in that arena tonight was a bucket list thing. It was so cool to experience that. Fans brought it. The team obviously brought it. There was like the craziest thing was today was the 9-year anniversary of Game 6 against Golden State in 2016, where Klay Thompson went off for 40 plus points, hit 11 threes, which is a playoff record, and probably the most heartbreaking loss in Thunder history.
Right.
And tonight, the Thunder exercised all the demons from not just then, but of the last 9 years.
I will say it's not the players' demons. That's like a fan demon.
That's
thing.
what I mean.
Yeah,
as a Thunder fan,
the Thunder fans were. I personally was feeling the bad juju today. Like, the Clay Game 6. I was like, I don't want to go back to Minnesota. I feel like if we go back to Minnesota, it's going to go 7. My mind was going all over the places, and it shouldn't have been. Why did my mind do that? We've watched this team all year.
You got to
dominate at times.
You got to stop that.
Tonight was the night they just turned their defense up to 11 in the first quarter. Really, the Wolves
they gave up 9 points.
9 points, and just obliterated them. And so it does go to show that the Wolves should not have beat the Thunder that bad. You know,
in Game 3.
Yeah, but now the question is, did the Thunder mess up by beating the Wolves this bad? Oh, wait.
Doesn't matter.
We're going to the finals. So
we do not know who we're playing yet. We'll talk about that later. And then obviously we got some content to get to you guys in the next 8 days. The Thunder will not play again
until
for
a
8
week
days.
from tomorrow.
A week from today.
I guess it's past midnight.
Yeah. I wasn't like you mentioned, like we were texting about the Clay game and like the bad vibes of that. I honestly viewed it as like, no, this is the perfect opportunity to just absolutely right those wrongs and like fuel to the fire. And they actually asked Shea and Dub about it in post game tonight, and they were like, I'm gonna be honest, there's like no parallelism to that. Is right. Basically what Shea said, and he's so right. But as people who have been Thunder fans for 17 years now, there's only one other time in the last 17 years that's been anywhere close to this, and it was advancing to the finals in 2012. Right. The difference is arguably the greatest player of all time is not standing on the other side of the bracket going into this finals matchup, which we'll get into later.
We're not playing Michael Jordan.
Let's recap this game, Chris. When did you think, okay, we're going to the finals?
Probably later than most people. I thought I wasn't so certain because earlier in the season we lost a game to the Wolves that they beat us. We talked about it before. The last game before the All-Star break, we were up 20 in the fourth quarter, and we ended up going to overtime and losing that game. Not until Dort hit a 3, Shea hit a 3, and then Dort hit another 3 was I like, all right, there is too much going on. These boys are really, really pumping the cheddar now. They're really giving them the business. And I was like, all right, I feel pretty good. And then finally when the Wolves threw out the white flag.
I think there was like 6 minutes left in the game when that happened.
Which is crazy. This team has ended 2 All-Stars seasons in the same manner. Not letting them finish the whole
throwing
game.
in the towel.
Having them surrender.
Yeah.
2 teams have surrendered to the Thunder in the playoffs.
You know, speaking of that, and we talked about it. You sent me a text during the game too about it. Seeing how the Thunder performed in the last 5 games as a team, and then also like Shea individually, Dub individually. I'll say this once, and then we'll get back to the Thunder. Nikola Jokic is so freaking good to push this team to 7 games with the team that he had. It was announced today that Russell Westbrook had 2 breaks in his hand that he was playing through and had surgery today to repair. I mean, just an insane player. But, I texted people during that series, and it was one of those, like, in the moment, it sucks. The Thunder are down 2-1, and I was like, you could technically even, like, okay, you could go win in 6 or whatever. The best thing that could happen to that team in terms of getting to the end goal, which is still not achieved yet, and there's 4 more games they have to go win, but the best thing that could happen was go 7 against Denver, gut that out, and kind of like, take your lumps, get your battle scars. And then if you because everyone was like, whoever wins this Denver OKC series is far and away the favorite to win the championship.
Right.
And obviously that's all betting odds. You have to, roll the ball out there and play it. But they needed that. And then they went into this series, especially how they won game 3 or game 4, how the Thunder won game 4, and probably the best game played in the playoffs to date, at least for sure on the Thunder side. And it's one of the best ones in the playoffs this year.
As a totality, that game, the shot making was elite. The defense was elite. Game 4 was a hell of a playoff game that I'm happy the Thunder are sitting on the right side of.
Yeah. And it's set up tonight. Like it was like, you don't want to think about it until this moment, recording a podcast after the fact.
Yes. I still haven't thought about it.
Well, the vibe and the thought process of you just took Minnesota's far and away best punch. All their role players shot great. Obviously, we did a great job on Ant and Randall. But that was like, if Minnesota had won that game, this series was probably going 7. But taking their best punch, playing how you did, your big 3 showing up in the best manner possible that we've seen to date, set up a Wolves team that was like, well, crap. What else do we got?
No matter what we do, they're going to win.
Yeah.
And you could see that kind of in the first quarter where Minnesota hit a big 3. I don't know who hit it.
Julius Randle hit the first 3.
Julius Randle hit a first 3. And you kind of think, all right, well, Julius Randle, he might have it tonight, kind of thing. And then there's this weird 2 minutes of like nobody really scoring, some things going weird. Our offense looked disjointed, and then all of a sudden we took off like a rocket ship. And
at one point in the third quarter, like I was watching some of the highlights before we hopped on. It was like 8 or 9 minutes and maybe 7. Like it was a good chunk into the third quarter. The Timberwolves had the same amount of made field goals as turnovers. And that's just like the talk of the Thunder all year has been the defense is otherworldly. It's an all-timer. And again, the storyline that we're going to read over the next 7 days and hopefully far beyond is that people did like they were like, no one's afraid of the Thunder. No one's taking them serious because it's a regular season. And you saw Cleveland on the other side. You've seen teams like the Jazz and the Hawks over the course of history be 60+ win teams in the regular season that cannot back it up in the playoffs. And that was the biggest fear, in this podcast, since we've started, we've talked about it as well, where it was like, this team's really freaking good. I need to see them in the playoffs.
Gotta go win.
And they've answered every test in front of them anytime the back was against the wall. The cool thing about tonight was they didn't mess around. Like It was like, we have an opportunity in front of us to go out and take this on our home court and not The
Well,
Russ versus Russ thing is going to be a thing, but they closed it out tonight and they went and did it.
Shea mentioned like he felt a responsibility to come out and play his hardest so that the fans, he kept saying the fans deserved to see us win on our home court in our own building. And it's amazing to me how this team just feels like the city and how they've done such a good job about bringing the city and making the city love them. It feels like 2012 again, where it's just the whole city's buying into these players specifically, buying into the Thunder. It feels incredible. And this team, I can't believe this team has done it so well. Got the city to buy back in.
We're 3 years removed from 24 wins. Like this team won 24 games 3 years ago. Then we go into the play-in.
They were a black eye on the NBA.
That guy doubled down too. Like what? I'm not even gonna say. I know his name. I'm not gonna say his name on this podcast. But I mean, just you think about all the things that went wrong in the last 9 years since this team. And we keep saying we're gonna recap this game, but it's just talking about like how on earth did we get to this point? Because the feeling in that arena was like I just couldn't stop smiling. Got a little emo for a little bit. Hugged my wife, like you said, it. Dort hit that three, and it just was like I had a feeling going into halftime that it was like, okay, this team's too good to blow this lead. But until you do it, you know, as a Thunder fan and all the battle scars that we have of like all the times they should have done it but didn't. When Dort hit that three, it just like I raised both my arms and I was like, this is a moment. Like this, like it sounds cheesy to say, but it's like, this is one of those nights where in 20 years, you know where you were when they did this. And hopefully this isn't the last night of this season that it has a similar vibe. But, you know, you and I are going to remember like that I drove to Dick's Sporting Goods and you drove to Academy just to go get the locker room shirts and the hats, which I'm wearing right now. Shea looked a lot cooler than I do.
I don't know, Ben. You're giving Alex Caruso vibes.
It's the hairline. It's the hairline. The bald-headed demon, man. He's a brother. But man, I mean, just
it's special. It's a special night for the city. And I think it means so much for the city. Just because they said, like, on the radio, is like Clay Bennett's idea about bringing the Thunder to the city was that Oklahoma City was going to grow with the Thunder. And they were going to, you know, interlock together and take step by step to make Oklahoma City a destination for people. And I think this is another step that they're taking. A dominant team that we think, you and I think, I'm sure other people think, can be dominant for the next 10 years, right? There is at least that 5 possibility. To 6. 5 to 6 years of dominant. And in that time, the city's going to continue to grow and get cooler. I think Oklahoma City is such a cool city. And so it's just really, we're on the precipice of the next big step for the city, I think. But that's city talk. Let's talk ball. This is ball talk, not city talk.
I mean, let's go through some of these player lines. I mean, Shea was the MVP tonight. I think he set such an important tone early. And it wasn't scoring initially. I looked up at the first time out, he had 4 assists. He was distributing. They couldn't stop him. He was getting wherever he wanted. And you could tell.
He does that assist thing at the beginning of the games a lot. Early, he's like trying to get people in the flow. He's off the ball, getting, you know, making the right pass, making the right thing. But then when it comes down to like crunch time, he's like, all right, I will pass you the ball because I know you've been shooting the ball well today, but like, if it comes down to it, I'm going to have the ball in my hands. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, I think Chet scored the first 5 points off of 2 Shea assists.
First 7. I looked up and he had 7 or something like that.
He had 7 early, I know. But Chet came out strong. But the MVP, the Western Conference Finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, ended up with 34, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals. I think the thing that I love the most, outside of obviously Shea being Shea, you could sense there was an added motivation on the defensive end tonight, even more so than normal, where he got switched on to Ant a couple times, especially early, and he was like, "No, like I'm locking you up."
Well,
Like
there was another play that he denied Ant so hard that Nikhil Alexander just threw it out of bounds.
Yeah. I mean, like he set the tone, and I tweeted it during the game because somebody was like, Shea had 20 at half, like 24-5 or something like that, and they talked about like, a lot of this gets overlooked because of the defense, and I was like, what shouldn't be overlooked is you have a star putting up these numbers in a half, 24-5 or whatever it was, but in the same breath is like their best player. If I get switched on to him, I'm going to do whatever I have to make sure he doesn't score. And obviously he's not going to be successful every time. These guys are NBA players. But the tone and the attitude, and the players talk all the time about when your best players are bought in on that level, on that end of the court, it makes it so much easier for role players to be bought into what they need to do to have a team succeed in the way we've seen this Thunder team succeed. And Shea had that moment you mentioned late in the third, like, you know, they were up 30 plus at halftime. They were up more than the Wolves scored at halftime. And they came back and they cut it to like 22 or 23, I think was the closest margin I saw in the second half. And one of the moments where they were kind of chipping away and they got it to like 23 and we missed a shot. Shea like deflects a backdoor pass to Ant and takes it the other way for a dunk. And it was like just momentum killed immediately. Like just a massive moment that's not going to get talked about a lot, but that's your superstar making that play. And I feel like since he won his MVP outside of game 3, which didn't really, I don't count it as like an official game.
No
almost.
one will.
Who cares
no
now?
One
Who
will
cares?
That game. Wolves fans, you had a great game 3. Congrats on game 3.
They're gonna watch that game's highlights so much over the next 4 months. That one game and all of their Warriors and Lakers series.
I would too. I
did it against Dallas last year.
Yeah, I would watch
game 1 and game 4
over and over again.
Oh yeah. But him being able to do this, as I was saying, I think he's played even more so like an MVP since he got his MVP trophy.
I agree. Like I was, when he game 1, or was it game 2?
He got a game
2. So game 2, I was like, oh shit. Like, we talked about it. Like, are they going to pressure
a little wall?
Is it going to be a lull? And no, he strapped on his Haley's, and then it was pretty incredible. Or whatever they're called. What is his new Clay? Hell Clay.
But it's Hale Clay, yeah. Which his wife Haley is who they're dedicated to.
And he's played a lot better.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get Jack on the pod and get his shoe analysis compared to the Mustards, and he's wearing another pair for the finals. I think it's gonna be all white, but we'll break that down. We got some time to talk hoops, shoes, all of it. We got 8 days actually, 7.5, whatever.
7.
But Shea was amazing. I think Dub again played fantastic. 19 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal and a block. I feel like he had like 3 more steals just because I expect him to every game with how he defends. But
it felt like everybody was getting steals. We were in the passing lanes all night. There were just times they would like make a chest pass down to the corner and Kenrich Williams would steal it, or Casey Wallace would just like take the ball. Like the Wolves just were like so lazy on those passes, and we were just able to turn those interceptions essentially, like
they're pick sixes, as they kind of call them.
Yeah,
like you go score on the other end.
Yeah, and we turned them into points a lot. So our defense was something, and we didn't foul all that much. Crusoe has been more of a fouler than he was against Denver, but I didn't think like we fouled terribly much. There wasn't many free throws on either side, I don't think, but I could be wrong.
We didn't shoot it. We shot 21. They shot 15.
Okay, so maybe that's a lot, but like
I didn't feel it in the arena. Like
Shea
you didn't
Shea
feel
only
like
shot 4.
Yeah, well, if you take away his free throws, the Thunder only win by 26. So that's unethical basketball.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the third quarter. So I'm sitting there. We're up 32 at half, and the Wolves start climbing back into it, and I start to feel that angst. And
I think the whole crowd did. You kind of sense it.
Everyone was a little quieter.
Everyone was fine, but the tension was building.
You could tell that you could feel the Wolves kind of like digging their claws in, trying to push back one last effort. And I could feel the tension in the building, and I was getting a little nervous. Wasn't the best to watch a game with at that point. But then, our defense, we started Lou Dort, or was it Casey Wallace that hit a three? Or when was that? I actually don't know. I'm so frazzled from this whole experience that I'm not totally sure. Feels like a million years ago that we were in the third quarter. Let's see.
Kaysen hit 1-3, and it was at the end of the first quarter. So it wasn't Queso.
What was your confidence level in the third quarter? Were you still like, we got this, there's no issue?
I was still like, we got this, but please don't make me sweat it out. Like, I thought Minnesota would. It's their season on the line, and they had already been just battered and bruised as soon as they stepped on the court tonight. But you knew they were going to at least try to make a run in the third quarter, and they did. But honestly, the run was just they hit more shots. Like they just hit, like Ant had a 3 in transition. DiVincenzo hit a few. It wasn't like they were taking over the game. They just, they say basketball is a game of runs, and it felt like they went on a couple like 5 or 6-0 runs before we would score and kind of get it back up to 25-26, and then they'd get it down to 23 again. So it wasn't like a sense of like, oh crap, we're in trouble. It's like, just don't let this get to like 15, where it was like, this game actually is in the balance when it shouldn't be. And it never got to that point. And you mentioned earlier that there was a game the last time these two teams played in the regular season, the Wolves did come back from 20 down. And I remember going into the fourth quarter, I was like, please just be up more than 20.
Just
for like my like mental sanity.
Yeah. Just have that little extra cushion. Because
fourth quarter, it was never in doubt. And they went for the kill in the fourth quarter. They started Shea, which you and I were texting about it, because it was like Mark being, an incredible coach. He was like, if we give zero momentum and even take it with us those first couple of minutes, that game's over. So he started out with what I think is our best lineup with Kaysen, Caruso, Dub, Chet, and Shea. And that started the fourth, and it would have played longer, but Caruso picked up his 5th foul within like a minute. And so Mark had Dort go in.
Yeah, when he came, because he sat on the bench shortly. It was a very short stint where he sat on the bench after he got his 5th foul.
Yeah.
When he came
back maybe
in,
a minute or two.
I turned to Grace and I was like, he's going to foul out the next 2 minutes. Like I was so sure that he was not gonna survive very much longer. But
yeah, but at that point, like when he came back in, Shea had done, like he came back in for Shea, and it was the last time Shea played. And so like as we always say, the knife was in and twisting pretty heavily.
Shout out Coach Paxson.
It wasn't like there was some, if he fouls out, we're screwed. Like who's gonna guard Nasrid and Ant? But it was like, dude, you want to be on the court to celebrate? Like, because we didn't know how long we were gonna keep everybody in the game. But yeah, Dort hit there was like 6 or 7 minutes left. Dort hit a 3, and Shea wasn't even on the court. They call timeout. Here come the subs, and it never fails in the NBA where the team that didn't throw in the towel, they leave their starters in for like a couple possessions just to make sure there's no like run that happens from like just weird NBA basketball happening. And it was super cool to be there and experience, like Mark had Lou like commit a foul so that they could take the guys off, and he went and hugged every guy that came out, and the crowd went nuts. And
Shea was pumping up the crowd. It was loud.
We got to see Ousmane Dieng score in the Western Conference Finals.
The best shot of the night.
Usman Jang, here's a little tidbit for you.
Okay,
Usman Jang
no.
has scored more points in a conference finals than Joel Embiid has even been to. Fun fact.
That is a really fun fact. That was the best shot of the night. It was so smooth. Clock running down. He made some space. Nailed the three. I mean,
just yelled out, the Oos is loose.
Just nailed it. To get that shot in the conference final closeout game when your team is winning. I guess you could see it from the other side too, but our team won, so I don't have to think about that.
It was just like slap in the face.
Yes.
Here's Usman Jang. Isaiah Joe's going to hit 2 or 3 threes at the end. Like, it was AJ Mitchell who was in the rotation for the. I mean, like you see who was closing the game for us, and it's, we talk about Denver's lack of a bench, and our 14th and 15th guys are people that Denver would kill for, just to like maybe give minutes to. And so it was like, it was funny. I was watching I didn't watch it obviously on the broadcast during the game. I was there, but I was watching it before we hopped on here, the ESPN highlights, and the broadcast showed like set the record for most 30+ point wins in a playoffs. And they were like dribbling out the clock, and then a Minnesota guy took a 3 with 3 seconds left and cashed it. Well, we were up 33, so it cut it to 30. So the stat stayed true. But if we were only up like 32 at that point, and he made that would have been so funny. And the crowd booed him so much like after, and it was like, okay, he just wanted to he wanted to outscore Joel Embiid
it was his only point.
Finals.
Josh Minott.
Yeah,
stepped
like
up,
a guy that I'm like,
3.
I know nothing about. I don't know if he's in the NBA next year. He was a non-factor, so he got his name in the record book. Congrats to him. But just closing that out and then seeing the ceremony, no one left, and the crowd went nuts. You could tell in all of the interviews they'd have to like Shea legitimately said something about the fans. Like he started and said like one sentence and was about to get into his point. And he looked at Lisa Salters and like gave her like the 1 minute thing because he was like, they're about to go nuts.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
And
it was loud after the game. I mean, it was crazy. Like you talked about everyone
It's a moment. Around. It's a moment that you don't get often. And the hope is this team has several of these, but I mean, we as Thunder fans have learned, nothing is promised.
Pat Bev could take out your star player.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Thankfully he's not in the league anymore. Did you see, speaking of him, he had his podcast yesterday and he was at game 4 for the, for in Minnesota.
Right.
And he played for the Timberwolves a decent chunk, and he was on their team that advanced out of the play-in to get Minnesota into the playoffs for like the first or second time in like 20 or 30 years. And so he was there as like a former Wolves player, like front row. He was wearing an Anthony Edwards jersey, and he also was on the Clippers Shea's rookie year and played with them. And he walked up to Shea afterwards to dap him up and say congrats on the win. And Shea said, "I'm not dapping you up when you're wearing that jersey."
Yeah.
Like, man, a killer. And rolling right into what he said tonight, like even Mark said, like, we love our fans, best in the NBA, love this community, rest up, we need you in a week.
Yes.
Like all of the, what did you think of the post-game interviews in terms of celebrating the moment, but then also staying in the moment of, we still have another series left?
I thought the team did a good job of celebrating in the moment. Like they were, jumping around, putting on the hats, putting on the shirts, and then whether that's for the fans or not, they were doing it and they were smiling and, cheering. And J-Dub, did you see J-Dub behind with the Western Conference trophy when Shea was doing his interview?
The Scott Van Pelt interview.
So they were doing stuff like that. They were celebrating, but they also had the message. The job's not done. They had the message. We have to go win and play another series. This is not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is in our sights, right? And so I thought they did a good job towing that line. Mark did a great job. He called them idiots, which I thought was very funny.
They Nick Gallowed him.
Yeah.
They Nick Gallowed Mark during the the interview.
I thought they towed that line brilliantly, but I'm a homer, so
yeah, they could have
most
said
of what
anything,
they
and I would have
did-
been like, hell
I
yeah.
think most of what they did was great. But what about you?
No, I think it's the old saying of like two things can be true, where it's like this is an accomplishment and it's a major deal. Like people were just hugging and going crazy, walking out. We went and got the locker room shirts and hats, and they were sold out at the arena. So we went to Academy and Dick's, and so this is a moment. And Dub said it. He's like, we're gonna enjoy this tonight, but we're not done. So two things can be true in that this is something you should soak in. Obviously, there are probably 20 teams in the NBA that would kill for one of these moments in the last 20 years. And the other side of that is the blessing and the curse is that like this team is not done. And this team, for the first time in their existence, and I don't know for sure what the line was. I'm assuming Miami was favored in 2012, but they're favored to go win the Larry O'Brien trophy. And not kind of favored. They're already minus 750 to win the NBA championship.
Mm-hmm.
And so they know what's in front of them. Shea was very like, this is sick, awesome. We're not done. And everyone echoed that. It was very well handled, very well. And it's going to be interesting to see how this team spends the next week. I mean, you assume you're playing the Indiana Pacers. They're up 3-1 on the Knicks. They play tomorrow night in Madison Square Garden. But the whole like rest versus rust thing, and I kind of loved in this series that we won Game 7 on a Sunday and played 48 hours later and against Minnesota. And Dub was like, yeah, I kind of felt more like regular season-y where we like went and played another team 2 days later.
Right.
But then you go back to the Memphis series and they had 9 days off and they looked good in Game 1 until the end. And so, you know, I don't think you need to worry about the rest and the layoff because, like, if Indiana wins tomorrow, they have almost the same amount.
Both teams are rested, so we'll see who comes with a better game plan.
Yeah, so
it'll be interesting. I don't know what to think. Who do you think's going to win the Knicks game tomorrow?
I think we're for sure playing the Pacers, but best case scenario is the Knicks can get a game or two to push it to 6 or 7 games.
I think the Knicks win tomorrow, but I think the Pacers probably win back in Indiana on whatever Game 6 is. That's kind of my thoughts. I think Jalen Brunson can will his team to one more win.
Well, like the Knicks are favored, and there's like stats about like teams down 3-1 going back home. They typically fare decent because you don't want to lose in front of your home crowd. But I was thinking about it today, and it was like you texted me that you were nervous, and it was like, you know, we're scarred by 9 years ago in 2016, and the difference between what the Warriors had to do in 2016 versus what the Wolves would have had to do to advance in this series. The Warriors had 2 of 3 at home, down 3-1, and they also had Steph Curry on their team, and obviously Klay Thompson. But
no, we don't talk about him.
The Wolves were going to have to win 2 in Oklahoma City, and especially with like this team's 9-1 at home, their plus minus at home, their scoring margin is plus 231 points in the playoffs at home. And so that was like, it was always, please go win it tonight. It's how I felt about Game 6 in Denver. It's like, because then I don't have to worry about the next one. But this one, it was like, okay, we could win in 6 in Minnesota. It'd be a really tough task. But then if like, I'd always feel good about Game 7 at home. Having to beat us twice at home would have been just a crazy task. So
I am happy that we don't have to stress about games for a week.
I get to take my wife out on like a date night this weekend instead of like, you know, shouts to Bailey. She's been to several Thunder games, and I'm sure 4 or 5 years ago before we started dating, she didn't realize how big of a Thunder fan she was going to have to be in her life. So yeah, but anyways, are back to you before we head out? Are you thinking Pacers?
I'm thinking Pacers. It, like you said, like they're up 3-1. You think the Knicks are probably going to make it 3-2. They win in 6. So it would have to be a lot like the Warriors, but I don't think this Knicks team is good as good as the Warriors. I'll be more into watching the game now that I know we're going to play one of those teams.
Yeah, I was very cautious to get very into I watched them, but it was like
they were good basketball games.
Yeah. But yeah, the Thunder won't be back in action until next Thursday at Paycom, game 1 of the NBA Finals. But between now and then, we got some stuff we're working on to try to get at. We'll obviously do like a preview of whoever we end up playing. But enjoy this one, people. This doesn't happen often. It's a cool moment, and we're just happy to be on this journey with y'all. But with that, we're gonna wrap it up. The Thunder are your Western Conference champions in 2025.
Crazy.
What a day, what a night. Thunder up, and we'll talk to y'all again soon. See ya.
All night long. Party, party, we like to party, party, party. All night long. Party, party, we like to party, party, party. Never go home. Party, party, we like to party, party, party. All night long.